In this video, we will bring it all together, creating composite solids, a mechanical example. If you'd like to follow along with this video, please open the file, bring it together -create composite solids mechanical.dwg, located in the working files folder as discussed in the working with this dataset video. Let's bring it all together with some real-world examples of creating a composite solid of a pump and checking for interferences. Let's first verify our settings. First, check to make sure the dynamic input is turned on, make sure polar tracking is turned on, make sure O tracking is turned on. Make sure you have O snaps with endpoint, midpoint, center, intersection, and extension turned on. Make sure you have 3D O snaps turned on with vertex, midpoint on edge, and center of face turned on as well. The first thing we're going to do is combine these two objects into one unioned solid. Let's go ahead and start the move command, and we'll select this object here using the center snap. Simply snap to the center of the object there. Using shift middle click to rotate the view, you can then select the 3D center of this location right here and move it there. Now that we have these two objects connected, let's go ahead and union them to create one object. We'll go to the Home tab, Solid Editing panel, and select the Union command. We'll go ahead and select this object first, this object next, press Enter, and now these two objects are combined. Now, although you might feel the need to combine every object, there may not be a need to do so. We're going to union these objects first, but then we'll move it to the appropriate location, but keep it as a separate entity because it's a separate part of the design. Let's go ahead and start the union command, and make sure you select this object first because this is the layer the object should go on. We'll select that one first, select this one next, press Enter, and that's now a combined object. Let's go ahead and thaw all our layers by clicking the Thaw All Layers command. And now what we want to do is actually take out the holes that we have here. So we'll use the subtract command for this. We'll start the subtract command in the solid editing panel. Remember, you're making two selection sets. So select this object first, press Enter, and then select the other objects, which are the parts to create the hole. Press Enter, and now we have our holes in the appropriate locations. Let's go ahead and move this entire object from the center of this location there to the center of the location right here. And now that object is connected to this object here. It's not unioned, but it's now on the same face as the housing is. We also have an example screw here that we now want to place in these four locations. So we'll start the copy command to copy to the four locations. We'll go ahead and do a shift middle click and get the 3D center or center of the actual inside right there. Now we'll just copy it to the different locations. So we'll just snap center there. Note that if ortholock does kick in, you can always turn on polar tracking afterwards. And we'll go ahead and keep copying this around to the correct locations. If you need to, you can always do an O snap override to get to these locations if the different snaps appear instead. And now we have our screws in the correct locations. Let's go ahead and do an interference check here. Let's navigate to the Home tab, Solid Editing panel, and then we have the Interfere command right here. Let's just go ahead and select all the objects and then press Enter. For a second selection set, since we do not have one, we can just go to the check option and press Enter. Notice that we have one interfering pair found, and if you want to zoom around, click on the Orbit tool, and you can wheel in, and notice that it's actually inside this part right here. Now, you could try and fix this manually. However, because AutoCAD can create a 3D model out of this location here, why not use it to subtract out what you want to subtract out? Press Escape, and instead of deleting the interference object, toggle it off, and go ahead and click on Close. You now have that object in there to subtract out from the housing. Let's change our visual style to 2D wireframe. Here is the actual 3D solid that got generated. Let's go ahead and navigate to the subtract command, and we'll go ahead and pick our main solid here, press Enter, and then pick this object here, press Enter, and now we actually should have no interference. Change your visual style back to realistic, and go ahead and run the interference command again, and select all the objects here, press Enter, Enter again. Notice how objects do not interfere at all. Lastly, let's do an intersection of these two objects here, and then move it to the housing. We'll go ahead and start the Solid Editing panel. Intersect command. We'll pick this object first, this object next, press Enter, and now we have our bushing that we can put in here. Let's go and start the Move command, select the object, and grab the center of the top part of the bushing, and navigate to the 3D center here, and there is our completed composite solid.